Welcome to the Single African Market program dedicated to bringing you all actions around the journey of Africa to create one market for its citizens and for its nations. And we have endeavored to bring you all the actions around this particular journey almost for the past 1 year or so. And beginning this year, 2022, the Secretariat has been very busy with a lot of actions, starting from January thereabout when the Pan-African Payment and Settlement Systems was launched here at the commercial capital of Africa, that's Accra, Ghana. And then subsequently, somewhere in February thereabout, the heads of states of governments of Africa approved the 88.7% of the rules of origin negotiated by the Council of Trade Ministers. And then also the AfCFTA Secretariat and AfCFTA Bank also launched the adjustment fund in Cairo. The Secretary General has also been combing around the continent, preparing the minds of citizens of the continent in several countries. Last week, we brought you all the actions from Nigeria, where he met the Shippers Council of Nigeria, the Customs of Nigeria, the entire port and maritime community in Nigeria, the International Chamber of Commerce, and all of that, preparing the minds of the continent towards a commercially meaningful trading. And that's what we are also going to do this week. Now, before the coming weeks, we'll be bringing you a lot of events from Arusha in Tanzania. We'll bring you quite a number from Senegal, Egypt, where the Secretary General is undertaking quite a number of important assignments. This week, though, we are going to bring you and recount some of all those actions that have been taking place by the Secretariat of the AfCFTA. We want to know where we are heading. When are we starting trading? Everybody is asking, when at all can I take my goods from Ghana to Namibia, take it from Ghana to Soweto without paying duty? That's what people want to know. So this week, I sat down with the one in charge of communications at the AfCFTA Secretariat, our own number one boss, Ms. Grace Koza, to find out from her exactly what's happening at the Secretariat and also what does the future look for the continent. Run us through what's been going on, particularly starting this year, 2022.
Thanks very much, Sam. I think the most exciting thing really about being part of this organization, especially this year, is that we really felt right at the beginning that it is a year that we need to make changes. It's a year where the trade has to start happening. And it's a year where I, for one, labeled it as a year where ordinary citizens of this continent are probably becoming more impatient if we don't see, tangibles and what we've been talking about being the trade being activated, being done. So it's been a wonderful year in a sense because it has literally put in the lights and the expectations that come from ordinary citizens saying, what is this organization all about? They want to see us doing something. And I think this has been a year where we could not run away and say because of COVID, because of whatever is happening globally, we're unable to deliver. But it was also a very, very important year because right at the beginning, we had the launch of PAPS, and it showed to us as an organization that we understood that this is an activation year. We start taking advantage of this wonderful opportunity that's been given to us by this continent, and work has to be done. Yeah. And it started right at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. And so you had the PAPS launch, for instance, which I witnessed personally. And then after that, you had an event in Cairo, Egypt, between the Secretariat and AfCFTA Bank. Now, talk to us about some of those, aside the PAPS that was launched in Accra, which a lot of people heard about, and your MOU with AfCFTA. What is it about in the first place? And if there are other ones as well that you can shed light on.
Yeah. Look, we can't do this, we can't deliver this mandate on our own. The reality of it is that we depend on strategic partners and stakeholders who have been kind enough to say we want to walk the journey with you as a Secretariat to enable you to deliver on this mandate. So there have been some strategic relationships that have been created. That makes sense. I mean, AfCFTA Bank, as an example, it's an organization or financial institution that really is representative of the members of this continent. majority of our member states are shareholders in this financial institution. So it's important to have the strategic relationship. If you're going to talk about trade, you're also going to talk around trade financing. You're going to talk about just the assistance that an institution like AfCFTA could give to those who need to benefit to unlock this agreement for it to be practical. So that relationship is important, but it's not the only ones, as you've indicated. We've had other MOUs with also some of the partners. The good thing is it's been deliberate from the Secretariat, that especially from His Excellency, who's been very clear to us that we're looking for partners who understand the mandate, but not only understand it, but can really get themselves involved with us to get this done for this continent. So AfCFTA recently we also signed with the African Development Bank. That's another strategic partner. But we're looking for like-minded partners, and we work with like-minded partners and partners who want to make sure that we achieve the mandate that's given to us. The three most important prerequisites or criteria that we look at. One, as I indicated, is the value. Is there a shared value? Is there a shared vision? Secondly, where do they operate? They operate in this continent, because that's where our mandate is, to make sure that the fulfillment of our mandate in the continent is realized. But thirdly, we're also working with people who don't want to be seen to be just beneficiaries of this agreement.
They're also giving.
They're also giving. So there are areas where they know that they might not make the huge returns just by mere partnering with us, but the dividends are more than just the commercial dividends that any financial institution would be looking to us. So we've got those partnerships that we really believe that they're strong, and they help us as an organization to deliver the mandate that's been given to us.
Yeah, it's also obvious that you're getting quite a lot of support from heads of states and countries, for instance, because just a few days ago, we witnessed the two heads of states visiting the Secretariat alone. Somewhere last year, in the middle of last year, you had the president of Angola also showing up and all of that. To what extent is this encouraging the work of the Secretariat in delivering its mandate?
To be fair, maybe let me start by saying the host country has been absolutely, absolutely wonderful. I mean, it's...
That's Ghana, you
Ghana. Working with the government and the leadership of this country has been absolutely exceptional. Because they understood when they themselves were trying to get this city to be the trade hub or the trade home of the continent. They understood their mandate, and therefore the support that we've received thus far, it shows that appreciation and the clarity in their thinking and why they wanted us to be housed here in Accra. So because of that relationship, a lot of the state visits that take place, that under normal circumstances, you know, the president of Ghana could say, no, but this is my trade, this is my bilateral, this is my state visit. He tends to also wants to bring the heads of states to the Secretariat for them to see where this house that has been given to house and become a home for the Secretariat is located. Also, but also to meet those who are driving this engine behind. But also, there's a vote of confidence to His Excellency's work and the work of the Secretariat, to have the president of a country saying, I'm proud enough to have a relationship with the Secretariat that I will bring my own esteemed guests to come and see the work that is being done here. That's the first part. So we are really grateful to the government and the leadership and the people of Ghana. But secondly, having heads of states coming to the Secretariat, it's a beautiful, beautiful indication that the political will that we've been talking about, that this continent has, and that political will that has decided for us to have this agreement, still wants to walk the journey with all of us. Yes, like most parents, we're scolded where we're not performing well. Like most parents, we're encouraged where we're performing. But it's important to have that voice. It's important to know that the political will is there to make sure that they understand, even appreciate the challenges that we face. Because it is during those moments that His Excellency can sit down with the heads of states that are coming our way and just have an honest conversation about some of the challenges that we face at the Secretariat. Because for the job to be done, we still need the political will and we still need the guidance.
Definitely. And one of the things I noted, particularly with the last visits of the heads of states, if you take Mozambique, for instance, they have signed on to the AfCFTA but haven't ratified. Is that the case?
That's the case.
So in showing up here at the Secretariat, it sort of motivates them, or probably with the hope that when they return, they might consider coming on board, ratifying and depositing their instrument of ratification. Is that
part of the feedback that we received from His Excellency's bilaterals with the President of Mozambique was that absolutely we will see the tide turning, and we will be excited to hear some good news quite soon.
Yeah.
We went to Tanzania months before they rectified. A couple of months later, they rectified as part of their confidence in us, but also promise that they made to His Excellency. So we have no doubt that these kind of interactions, these kind of visibility, even for the heads of state to come and see where we're located, really nudges them to make sure that they finalize what needs to be finalized on paper. But we know that the will is there, and for them to encourage us by just merely coming here, that speaks volume to us.
I'm glad you hinted on the Tanzania, because we heard, and it was clear from the president when she was here, that her country is so proud to have deposited her instruments of ratification, and she's proud about the AfCFTA. Even went ahead to accept to be the champion for women in trade. What does that mean for the Secretariat?
It's exciting. It's exciting because quite clearly I'm a woman. I'm an African woman. Those who came before me, including the president herself, those who literally created this path for us, to see them saying, irrespective of the workload that I have, I'm still willing to carry this extra one because I genuinely, authentically believe in this cause, that we need to bring the women of this continent into this agreement. They need to benefit. So personally to hear her accepting that role, it's really, really such a beautiful thing to see. Secondly, what's also very important about her acceptance is that it sends such a beautiful message to ordinary women and young women of our continent that this agreement is for them too. Yeah. That if a head of state of government can take this honor, on top of all the other responsibilities that she has, to really be part of this evolution.
And ensure that women benefit.
Benefit, and also making sure that we finally, I hate using the word, integrate them into the mainstream of trade in this continent. Here's the thing, Sam. I've known for years, in which for those who even came before me have known for years, that women traders in this continent have been the backbones, have provided that backbone for trade in this continent. They've been the ones that have been pioneers. They've been the ones that have seen the challenges and even gone through the challenges of trading in the continent. And for them to take that risk, some literally a security risk for their lives, but they've done that because they understood, as we say in South Africa, I am because you are, that if I can make a living trading with a fellow sister in another part of this continent and be able to put bread on the table of my kids, it's worth it. Yeah. We're finally regularizing that to make sure that it becomes safer and it becomes properly structured for their own benefit. And that is important. But the third point of why it's such an honor to have the president receiving and accepting this role, it also says to the continent, both in the private and the public sector, the issues around women trading in this continent are as critical as any other issue. If you want this continent to really uplift almost 30 million out of poverty, as this agreement is meant to do, you have to. You have to bring them on board and be deliberate in doing that. For the first time, the architecture of the protocol is a bit slightly different because now we want and we're deliberate in hearing the voices of the women. So His Excellency have been going around the continent and talking to different groupings of women. We are now about to create a conference. In that conference, it will be an official platform where these views, their own narratives will be heard. And out of that, a clear protocol on women would then be written and it will come about. Here's the difference. We're not getting some academics sitting in some air-conditioned office to write the women protocol. Neither are we getting some trade negotiators to do it. We're involving them to make sure that we truly and honestly understand the challenges that they're facing. It's easy. If we wanted to expedite this process, we could just, sit at the Secretariat, probably take 2 to 3 days. We've got some of the best brains here. Most of my colleagues, excluding me, but most of my colleagues have been in this journey for years. They know and understand what needs to be said and how it needs to be articulated in the protocol. But that's not what we want, and that's not what our own Secretary General wants to be an outcome. He wants to make sure that ordinary women, those, as you've said, who've been on the ground and doing the work, let's hear their voices. Let us really understand. Let's hear those stories. Some of them painful as they are, but they need to be heard so that the right protocol talks to and addresses those challenges for them to benefit from this agreement.
And it's again key that you make reference to the Secretariat, because from observation, I recognize that you have a good number of women who are in the helm of affairs here at the Secretariat, and driving a lot of even some of the negotiations and leading important role, like even where you are. To what extent has the Secretariat and its leadership even embraced this whole idea of women?
We have a leader who's a visionary, who understands that the majority of the population in this continent is women. Yeah. But not only that, that if you want to bring an organization, for an organization to be realistically relatable to the audience that is talking to the people that it needs to address, you need to make sure that on a day-to-day, those are represented, even at the most strategic roles in the organization. So I always say to my colleagues, it's amazing when I look at the amount of knowledge, experience, talent, skills that we have in this organization and being brought mainly by women. You really, really just admire what this continent has produced. Because none of us would have been here if it wasn't for the deliberate investment of those who wanted to make sure that we succeeded. We're born and bred women of this continent. We were not manufactured somewhere and then exported. No. We are what this continent talks about. We are what this continent wants to believe in. And to be given an opportunity to be part of this critical institution that is a flagship of Agenda 2063 of the AU, it's important. So when we talk amongst ourselves as women leaders of the organization, and we always encourage each other that the job at hand is not for us to pat ourselves in the back and give ourselves accolades or whatever, but is to say what else should be done so that those who come after us could excel and do better than us.
And again, with some key focus as well as on the youthfulness of the staffing and all of that, because you see quite a lot of vibrant young folks.
Absolutely. His Excellency wants to make sure that this organization reflects that it's a continent that's got young people. That gives you an ability, as I indicated, to be relatable even to their own constituency, because that's the biggest one. You know, when you look at this agreement and what we bring as a continent, one of the critical things is that on top of the 1.3 billion people, we're also bringing in that billion people, young people, a huge pool of young people who will lead this continent at some point.
We get a lot of questions coming from folks everywhere on our social media platforms and through emails and all of that. People asking, when are we starting commercially meaningful trade?
Yeah.
And from last week thereabout, when the Tanzanian president was also speaking, she said, can we start trading so that we start tweaking and correcting the stuff that we need to correct along the line, instead of waiting to make everything perfect before we take off? When are we trading?
The answer is we are ready. If you look at the agreement, Sam, there are expectations from all the role players. We have a mandate, we have a role to play. It's a policy and regulatory framework space where we operate in to ensure that the right documentation for those who want to take advantage of the agreement are there. So, for example, the e-tariff book It will now, be on our website very soon. The trading.
How far has that gone?
So the issue is we now need to make sure that all the other trade documentation are also part and parcel. What we don't want to see is somebody experiencing just having their e-tariff booklet, but not the other trading documents. So we're working towards that.
To get
all of them together. So from that point of view, as the Secretariat, we are ready. And we will soon seal and close this chapter, our own responsibilities. But then there's a role of our member states. They themselves, some of them, by rectifying, they don't need them to go through other legislative processes like gazetting the agreement and all of that. As you've rightfully pointed out, the President of Tanzania was saying, but guys, you can't wait forever. This has to be done. We're now getting a sense of urgency from the member states. The majority of them were saying, we want now to also close what is expected on our part for this trade to be active and for it to happen. So that's the responsibility of the member states. But then you also have responsibilities of other stakeholders, the regional economic communities, where issues around customs, we need to synergize between what is from a policy point of view and what is practically done on the ground around customs. How do we make sure that our customs understand and appreciate that there's a new agreement? There's a new way of doing things that benefit our business people in this continent, so that they don't struggle with challenges of customs or border issues. They know very clearly that the customs colleagues have that and that understanding for them to make it easier. The part that is important about this agreement, for it to be fully activated, is the benefit to ordinary traders in this continent, not the big players, because they can spend months and months deploying, resources there to make things easier. But we need to make sure as a Secretariat that ordinary traders themselves are then afforded an opportunity to trade under this new agreement, but in the most seamless manner possible. That's the thing. People already are trading as we speak, Sam. The continent is trading. What this agreement is offering, it's a better package on the tariffs, but also the process itself to be betterly managed, not to hinder and create more challenges and roadblocks. So that's why it's so important that every role player understand their role and they effectively and start implementing what is their role. But the last category is us as citizens. We need to advocate for this to be expedited. And that's why part of our role as communication is to create advocacy understanding of this agreement. The final issue around our readiness to trade is that I can confidently say we as a Secretariat very, very soon will be making a groundbreaking announcement on that issue, because it is imperative for us to ensure that trading starts taking place in this continent, because that's what we created.
That's what we are waiting for.
That's it.
I'm excited to hear this, particularly the bit about the tariff book, because I know that a lot hinges on that.
Absolutely.
Once you have made significant progress,
which we have,
we are making a lot of progress. The future looks bright. And talking about the future, what should the enthusiastic SMEs, for instance, enthusiastic women and young people who are packaging their products and rebranding. I've seen a lot of young people who are rebranding their products, just waiting for AfCFTA to be marketable, to be competitive. What's the future for them? How does the future look for them under AfCFTA?
Sam, it looks bright. It honestly, genuinely, authentically looks bright. It's a future that I've indicated that those who came before us, your own forefathers of this country, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, my own president, Nelson Mandela, Julius Nyerere. I mean, there are so many who came before us who talked about not just a politically integrated and free continent, but an economically integrated continent. Because they understood that if we have to go further than just getting political freedom, it's important to have that economic integration taking place in the continent. Because not only does it benefit certain people, but those who've got the zeal and the will to partake and participate. Here's what we needed to do as a Secretariat, is to create an environment where people can flourish as they trade. Make sure that it's regulated and the process are efficient and effective for them to benefit. That's it. Our biggest mandate is exactly that, on behalf of the member state. We as the Secretariat, as His Excellency always say, we take this responsibility very seriously. We as a Secretariat understand that the mandate given to us, it's a clear mandate that comes way back. We have our forefathers, Ghana's founding father, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Dr. Nelson Mandela, Julius Nyerere, all of those who wanted and really drove this political freedom that you and I are benefiting from, didn't want the story to end there. They wanted economic integration and they wanted economic success for this continent. So this agreement is all about that. It's the second phase of what is it that this continent now needs to do. Not just for ourselves who are here, but for those who come after us. It's important for those SMMEs, those young people, those innovators, I call them, those outliers, I call them, to keep on believing that it's possible. Because yes, there were times where some of us probably during the era of Kwame Nkrumah didn't believe that the political freedom would be achieved. But it did happen. Because there was a will and there was a willingness and the support from the citizenry. And the same thing needs to happen now. Hold us accountable as a Secretariat. We are serving you. And that's important for you to see this envisaged vision finally taking place in the continent.
And we wish you luck.
Thank you very much.
So we decided to dedicate the entire week for the head of communications of the AfCFTA Secretariat because, as you have heard, there are quite a number of things have happened under the watch of the Secretariat, doing extremely well with that. The few staff that they have, but very smart and intelligent people who have been working tirelessly to make sure that the vision of Africa to create one market indeed come to fruition. Now, I have had quite a number of questions coming from people, former colleagues and friends and all of that, asking you, this thing, Krao, is it going to work? People are wondering and quite pessimistic about it, whether indeed there can come a time where the entire continent can trade in one market. Whether you like it or not, this is going to happen because we should be ready to make it work. We can't sit aloof and watch it never happen. Once you're an African or once you believe in the vision of Africa, you should be able to be part of this and make sure that we all make it work. That's why some of us dedicate ourselves to do this, because it is important that we grab this chance, the only chance that Africa has to create one market for its people. Let's now bring you the weather report for all African cities, the forex rate for the African market, also the flight schedules leaving the trade hub and commercial hub of the continent of Africa to the rest of African cities, as well as the AfCFTA status for African countries, all next on your screens. So let me take the opportunity once again to remind you to tag along this particular platform, because you get all the up-to-date events, all the up-to-date actions as far as this whole journey is concerned, so that you don't lose out on any information at all. Understand where we are heading. Never think that it wouldn't happen. And so you go relax somewhere and be overtaken by it, so that you are left behind. Whether you like it or not, AfCFTA is going to affect you as a citizen on the continent of Africa, whether you belong to any profession or otherwise, whether you trade or you don't trade, you offer a service as a journalist, a teacher, a nurse or doctor, a lawyer, whosoever you are. If you have no profession at all, you are still going to be impacted by goods that are going to be imported into this country without duty. And the earlier you begin to learn and understand it, the better it is for all of us. We appreciate the Secretariat for always informing all of us and giving us up-to-date events of what's going on at the Secretariat. We will endeavor to share them with you as time goes on. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you same time next week.
There's a Africa rise and shine. In the name of great Africa, it's a fight and conquer now.